Hi all, my name is Brooke. I work with the Zooniverse. I'm the lead of the disaster response arm of the Zooniverse, and I'm also, in my normal professional life, an astronomer, and I help run various astronomy projects for the Zooniverse, including Galaxy Zoo, which some people may have heard of. If you haven't heard of the Zooniverse, I think it's okay for us to say we're the world's most successful and largest crowdsourcing platform. We mostly do citizen science, citizen research, but occasionally we do other things like disaster relief. We have, at this point, about 1.6 million registered volunteers. The platform is a scalable platform. When people build their projects, there are about 70 projects right now that are live on the site, and we've had over 100 to date. The projects that people build can be small or they can be large. We have built the platform to handle speeds of classifications of 1 million per hour or more, with notice, obviously. If you want to build a project on the Zooniverse and you want it to be advertised with the Zooniverse, you can reach our audience, which with just like a single newsletter can bring maybe 10,000 people to your project or more, depending on if we get press, whatever. So what I thought I'd do is show a demo of how to build a project on the Zooniverse. We have a project builder that's a web-based a GUI, and you don't need to have any coding experience whatsoever to do so. If you do have coding experience and you want to build like a custom project by the API, you certainly can do that, but I'm going to focus on just the project builder, which is a nice, easily accessible way to build a project. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I'll get the right screen shared. Okay, so all right. So if I go to zooniverse.org and I'm logged in, this is my Zooniverse homepage. This shows my classification ribbon. It shows what classifications I've done on what Zooniverse projects over the years. Basically, only I can see this, but the point is there's a diversity of projects. People do a diverse set of things. Everybody contributes in their own way. So we have a pretty diverse audience that you can reach. Want to build a disaster relief project. We're actually running one right now, so I want to show that to you very quickly, and then I'm basically going to build a kind of skeleton version of that project. So right now this is our Planetary Response Network project, the one that's active. If you go to planetaryresponsenetwork.org, it forwards to this URL, which is our project builder URL, and you can classify, you can join in the community and discuss things, you can see statistics and so on. So if I click on classify, now I've already classified on this, so the tutorial won't come up, but there is a tutorial. And it's a basic, like, just mark the features you see. What kind of damage do you see? Like, for example, I've got before and after images here, so I can play them like a... The idea is, now this is medium resolution imagery from Planet Labs. This is very different from, say, the FEMA app that we were just looking at, which is aerial imagery, so much higher resolution. In this case, we're only going to be able to see just sort of catastrophic damage. We're not going to be able to do kind of the finer distinctions between minor, major, severe, etc. But that's fine. That's still good enough for a lot of the organizations that we partner with. So what I want to do is kind of build a version of this here live so that you can see how easy this is. So if I go to build a project, which is zooniverse.org/lab, the URL is right here in the bottom left. Control Center, it shows all the projects that I'm the owner of, and below that it shows projects that I'm a collaborator in. This is the actual project that I just showed you that's live. I'm not going to go to it just in case I misclick or something. I'm actually just going to create a new project here, and I'm just going to call it Disaster Relief Demo. The description is going to be what shows up on your homepage. You don't have to know it right away, but let's just say, help us out with disaster relief. Cool. And then, right, so then once I've created the project and I have a basic empty skeleton, I'm taken to this project builder interface. So there's basically two things you need to do to build a project. The first thing is you need to upload your data, and the second thing is you need to define the tasks that you want completed regarding your data analysis. So, okay, here is a folder of some sample of imagery from Dominica, which is the data set we have active right now. These are planet before and after mosaics. As you can see, I've done the mosaic pretty quickly, so it's not perfect, but it's good enough for our purposes. And we've tiled those up. There's several hundred tiles in this case, but right, so the images I have are like a collection of images that look like this, right? So it's various bits of terrain. We ask for basic building counts, which we use as kind of a check on the OpenStreetMap data that we ingest, just to make sure that we're complete. And then I've also got after images, right? So if I go to the project builder and I go down to subject sets, and we call a unit of data to be classified a subject, and that's because it can be multiple images, it can be images and graphs, it can be various things. So we don't call them images, we call them subjects. In this case, I'm gonna want the subjects to be a pair of images a piece. I'm just gonna call this Dominica, whatever. You're the only one who ever sees this name, so use something that's useful for you. So if I take these images here, and I drag and drop them in, okay, so it's going to assume that each of those images, it wants you to present them separately for classification, so I'll have 24 subjects. That's not actually what I want, right? So I need to tell the project builder how to pair up the images together. Like I want the before tile 1805 in the grid to go with the after tile 1805 in the grid. The way that I do that is I make a CSV file that has basically one row per subject, and with each of those you have a couple of columns, one for each of the images. Now this manifest is what we call it a manifest. It's just a CSV file. This actually has a lot more information in it. I've got the original TIFF files that I made the JPEG files from. These two columns are important because they're going to tell the software that these are the images that go together. Now, this is the full manifest for the entire project. I'm only going to do a part of it, but that's fine. I also have the coordinates, various other information, where we got the imagery from. These links will show up in the project and so on. All of that is optional. What you really need is just to put in the images that you want to pair up. So if I drag and drop the manifest into the project builder, now it says, all right, I've got this auto-generated thing. That's still there. I don't actually want that, so I'm going to get rid of that. But it says, all right, you had a lot of stuff in this manifest, and I only found 12 that I can make, which is fine. I only want to make the 12. I'm not going to sit here and wait for the download to have the upload to happen with 634 images. I already did that last night anyway. So we wait for these to upload. And then once they're uploaded, they should be ready to go into a workflow. Now I'm just going to refresh this really quickly so that everything comes up as these things are processing. But basically, the subjects are listed here, and they look like this, right? So this is automatically tiled this for me in the way that I specifically told it to. Okay, now I need to define exactly what it is I want to classify, and we call that a workflow because it's a set of tasks that you can order in whichever way you want. You can I'm going to call this damage classification. Cool. So I add a task, and you can add various tasks. So you can ask questions of people. You can make marks on images. Those are the most common tasks. There are a couple of other kinds, but I'm going to focus on those. So actually, I'm just going to add a drawing task. So I need to define what that is. So here in the classify thing, I've got like this instruction here, and that maps to here. So I'm going to call this mark the features you see. This is help text. In a 10-minute demo, I'm not going to write any help text. Would be here. Hopefully I'd already have that written. And then I want to define the actual tools that I'm going to use. So let's start with structural damage. I want that to be a point tool. I don't know, I'm going to call it red for no reason whatsoever. Then let's say I want people to mark obvious signs of road blockage. Cool. Say I want people to mark flooding. Let's mark those in kind of a bluish color. Why not? And then let's say if I want people to mark like tarps and stuff. That's going to be hard to see actually in this resolution imagery, but I just want to put this together. Okay, so this is now going to be 4 possible tools. Now, the main thing I want to do, there's a test this workflow button here, but the first thing that I need to do before I do that is I need to say, I want to activate this workflow for this subject set. So these are the images that I just uploaded. And now that I've done that, I can test this out. Okay. Oops, I'm in admin mode and I don't need to be, but that's okay. Right. So this is the project that we just built. This is the name of the project, the various information here, mark the features you see. It does the before and after play, and that takes very little time, right? So I don't actually see much happening here. In our full project, we also have an initial question that's just like how many buildings are in this picture. It just gives a basic sense of population density. It's used for comparison with OpenStreetMaps data. Oops, I've got 2 green things here, which I didn't really mean to do, so I can edit that. That's just, it's not going to actually change anything on the back end. It just gets more confusing for the classifiers. So, okay, and then there are a couple of options here. The main option that's down here that I want to say is like, this is my default workflow, so go to this for when you're classifying, I want the classifiers to see this one first because I might create others. I want to enable pan and zoom of the images here. This is how you want to display your images. I've got a pair and I'm flipping between them, but I can also do it so that they're side by side, separate frames, or if you have 5, you can a grid of them or whatever. I don't need to invert the images. That's more useful for some of our science things. Okay, so now I can test this again. Close that previous one. And now this should have changed a little bit. So now I can actually zoom in on these images and pan around, and I can do the playbook here with the zoom happening, and I can see a little bit more detail, which is very useful. So we try in the Zooniverse too, for these examples, we try to have a slightly more zoomed out picture so that people have context, but we also want people to be able to zoom in and look at the finer details in the image. Now, there are a few other things that I want to just point out. People can like favorite this image and they can keep them in collections. They can always access them later. It's good for asking questions and so on. The metadata is here. Now this corresponds exactly to that manifest file that I uploaded. You can make some of these invisible if you want to keep them attached to your data but not have them shown in public. That's very easy to do. This is very useful, adding these links to say Google Maps so that people can get further context if they want that. Lastly, the talk. I want to just showcase the talk area. At the moment, it's not set up for this project because I haven't set it up, obviously, but I want to just go over to our talk on the project that's already running. Talk is a community forum. It's a purpose-built that for our software, and the reason Talk exists is for people to be able to discuss their classifications, not while they're classifying because we want to keep them independent, but afterward people can ask questions and make comments. So we have a whole section, like a board here, where we talk about the new data sets that have been put in, and I give an overview of them. People ask questions. So I haven't actually checked this in a while. There's new posts that I probably need to look at. This section is where people, after they're finished classifying, in this case, they can classify. I can just say, I'm done, I didn't see anything. And then you can choose to go to your next image, or you can choose to go to Talk and ask a question. And if people click on Talk, they go to the boards and they can ask questions, and they're here. And they're just saying what they see. Sometimes they use hashtags to collect things. Sometimes they ask questions, sometimes they answer each other's questions, and so on. This community is a really important resource because you can train like a small number of people. You can put the posts up about more information, and then we find that people tend to, the people who are paying attention to that will then hang out and answer other people's questions. So you get this kind of almost like a trickle-down effect where people train each other. And that's really, really valuable and very good for the accuracy of our classifications. And we can also intervene in places here where, for example, this person was asking because they were seeing some things they didn't understand in the before and after, and they wanted to know if we'd mistagged them before and after, and we had to come in and say, no, you know, some of the images are public, but they're like a year old because those are the best images we had, so sometimes there's new construction, and I know it's confusing, etc. But people can handle it. People are totally fine as long as you give them all the information. So further than this, so we've basically built a project. It's a skeleton of a project. Obviously, you'd want to fill in more details. So the project as a whole if we go here, you can, we would want to put in like a background image and an icon, and you can put in a further description here where you say give credit to people, which we've done on the Planetary Response Network. We have detailed information about who our sponsors are, well, who's supported the project in the past, and so on. This is the org that we're working with has given us some quotes about how accurate the results have been and how useful they've been. And you can also fill in things like the about page, about your work, what you're doing, what the results are that you found. This is one of the heat maps we made for St. Thomas. This has been more than a week now in the hands of Rescue Global. So all of that is useful for communicating, and it's all basically done in this GUI. Now, for exporting your data, it's just all right here. You can request exports here. They're in CSV format. All the metadata is in JSON within the CSV, but most of the classifications are just in the CSV format. You can also get to them via the API, but honestly, this is actually much more efficient. And all of this is very useful. And we use this after data sets are done. We can download the data, I aggregate the data. In this case, I haven't actually set this in the project, but one of the key points here is how many people you want to see each image. I'm really glad I marked this. Okay, so right now we've got the retirement count at 15, which means that every image is seen by 15 volunteers before it's retired from the active data set. Now, this is a basic overall where we're like every image is the same. We actually have put in some custom rules that are accessible to everybody, that if you have different data sets and you want different retirement rules, you can definitely do that. Just get in touch with us. So if you've built a project and you want to launch it yourself, you can go ahead and do that, and you just share the link, not this link, the new link. You just share the link to your project in whatever way you want. You can do it via a press release. Hopefully, if you're doing that, you would let us know so that we can scale the site accordingly. But also, you can just share it with your community. You can make private projects where only people you approve are able to classify. If you want it to go to the Zooniverse, there's a whole there's a process that involves some feedback and project design, and that is initiated here on the visibility page. So for now, this project is just private. So if you were trying to go to that URL, that wouldn't have worked. I will make that public. Sorry. So now you can see it. This is in development, so that 15 retirement rule right now is being ignored, and anybody can just classify it's just in the test phase. Once I've read through the policies, best practices, and so on, I can apply for a review, and that goes out to a small portion of our community, our beta community, and they test the project. They're very experienced at looking at experimental projects, and they give really, really good feedback on what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and how to improve projects. After that's done, then you can incorporate that, and then we can release it to the public. Now, that timeline can usually take weeks to months. In the case of a disaster relief or a humanitarian crisis, some kind of urgent project, what I would recommend is that you get in touch with me. My email is brooke@zooniverse.org, and just let me know what's going on, and we can work together so that we can accelerate that, because obviously it doesn't work in a situation like post-Irma or post-Maria to be waiting a month for the project to go live. That's fine, and we're aware of that, so just let us know. Right, so that is the project demo, and I am very happy to take questions. I am brooke@zooniverse.org on email if you have questions, in Slack. This is going to be available on YouTube for ever, I guess. But right now we're doing this for a hack day, so if you have questions, just drop a question into Slack. I'm also available on Twitter. My handle is Vruj. Anyway, it's misspelling of my name. But feel free to get in touch with any questions you might have. And thanks so much, everybody.